Hi everybody, Linda Carroll here from Gather of Great Things Studio, and I'm back with a second video of collage with me and working on a new mermaid. I told you that I would continue working on my mermaid collage last night, and I have, and I did the background using pan pastels and Prismacolor pencils. I used let's see, where's my green? I used the permanent green of the pan pastel in the background, and I always try to use Prismacolor color pencils, and I use the grass green to do the shadow, and I left a little tiny bit up here to finish while I was talking to you at the beginning of this video. I went around all of the edges of the border and all of the edges of the objects in the collage. And this makes everything just pop. I think it's not outlined, but it definitely makes the images stand out from the background images. The same as if if you're doing some darkening and inking of edges when you're doing collages in vintage journals or books. This has the same effect, only it's kind of backwards, where you're working on the background and not on the piece that you're gluing down. So this background is finished now, and I was looking at my collage, and I really felt that I needed more of the tentacles in her hair, and I needed more layering so that parts of the hair came forward, and then these lighter smaller tentacles kind of receded into the background. So I took my other image that I had printed out, and I cut off all the tentacles, and I added a number of them. I also wasn't real thrilled with the way this shoulder looked, so I added a tentacle here, and I added this one and added quite a few up here in the top. But really, that's the only thing I've added, was the background color and then more tentacles. I'm really pleased with that. I did start working with the eyes. I spent some time doing some research on Gorgons and Medusa, and I love to read about mythology, mostly Italian and Greek mythology, and I'd always been aware of Medusa. She has snakes for hair. I knew she had her head cut off, and by Perseus, I think, and then it was displayed, and it's still displayed as a sign of protection. Supposedly, even after she died, looking into her eyes could turn someone to stone. So it was used on shields, and her head was also, and it still is, on the flag of Italy as a sign of protection, and also guardian. The name Medusa means guardian. So she started out her life as one of three sisters, and her other two sisters were born as Gorgons, and she was not. She was a beautiful young woman, and she betrayed an elder goddess, and the goddess turned her into a gorgon like her sisters, and had the snakes as hair and everything. So I was really excited to kind of read that, you know, that I had included this beautiful young woman here, and perhaps she's remembering back to her image if she looked in the mirror and saw her image as a beautiful young woman. And so within this, I love the way that stories and narratives grow out of the collages. And also I like the way sometimes I seem to just kind of be drawn to images that are part of a story, a mythology that already exists. And I really love those synchronicities when they happen in my collages. So I have started doing some illustration work and transformation of the images. I started up here with the eyes, and I tried a couple different media, and one thing I'm trying to do is decide on exactly the best media to cover up a shiny catalog or magazine page. And I tried the Paint Over pen by Jane Davenport, and I tried, and this is what I usually use, is the Posca pen. But sometimes it gets a little bit globby, but I still like it. But I had this Jelly Roll white pen from Sakura, and I started working with that, and I just love the fact that the whites were so solid and covered what was underneath. So I think I have a few of these pens. I think I'm going to get some more, because I love the way that it picked up the white. And I went up into the shell, and because I use so many dots in my work as decoration and to bring out details and shading, I really like the fact that this has really great coverage, and you can get really, really tiny fine dots if you want them. So I did my outlining, and then I went back in with my Posca pen and just outlined a very thin line. Yep, you're not gonna work now. Let's see here. I just ordered a new set of Posca pens. They should be here tomorrow. The fine line. So I run around the outside edges of the eyes. And one thing about Medusa, she had eyes that always stared straight at you. So the gaze of this woman or mermaid in this particular piece is really important, that she have a very penetrating gaze. So I'm going to go in and make her pupils a little bit larger. And then I'm going to outline her eyes with black. This is a little bit different for me because I'm not filming, and I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm having to put my hands in peculiar angles. So that outline around her eyes just seems to bring everything forward. I had a question by one of my viewers who was wondering about using artwork or pictures that are not in public domain? And if you do use them, how can you make copies, or can you make copies? And I use, obviously, magazine images for the eyes and for faces and arms. And they're not in public domain. I mean, they're models and people that I'm sure signed a release for the, I kind of like that. It was a mistake, but I kind of like the way that made her eye look. So I'm going to go in on the other side and do that. And my response was, if you're using images that are not in public domain, you have to change them, or you cannot make copies. You can use the originals. Okay, my gremlins remain alive and well in my camera, and it stopped working yesterday as I was filming, so I have a lot more completed on my Gorgon mermaid than when I last left you. I was working on the eyes, doing the outline in black of the eyes. I added the eyelashes, and I added some white accent dots at the end. I also, since I last was with you, I started adding white. I believe I was talking about how important it was to, or is, to transform the images that you use in your collages if you intend to make prints or collage sheets or anything out of them, which involved making copies of the artwork. You can use originals if it's just for you in your journal, or if it's for a collage that you're going to resell, as long as you don't make the Xerox copies of it, scan it into your computer, and make duplicate copies. You can use the original in your work. But if you're going to make copies or prints or anything like that, you have to change artwork that isn't in public domain. So I've gone in with, I used the Jane Davenport paint over pen, the colors Beach, which are kind of like that, and I worked on her face, going in and over painting a lot of her face. I used my fingers to blend the colors, and I also worked down here in the bottom of her face too with this paint pen or ink. I think this is actually ink. I really love it because it blends so well even on a shiny surface. I did use the pan pastel on her cheeks and blended it lightly in, and I think I went in with a little bit of colored pencil too to kind of blend out the pink in her cheeks. I did my usual outline of the eyes, and I started working on her tail, her mermaid tail. Now, this was originally part of a map that I had gotten out of a magazine, and I loved the colors, and I didn't want to do a whole lot with changing this. So I used my Posca pen, and I made dots in order to start making changes to this piece along the edge. I wanted to keep some of the red in here, And actually, sometimes going over top of these dots makes them a little bit brighter and makes them stand out a little bit more. And I'm just doing a suggestion of the scales on her tail to start making the transformation from the map to a mermaid tail. And I don't know if I'm going to do a whole lot more on this, the tail part. And down here, I was trying to define the tail itself. And I went in with the dark blue Posca pen and outlined a lot of the outside of her tail. That didn't seem to be enough. So I went in with my black and I actually outlined the entire mermaid tail. And I don't think it was this black, but I did get my new Posca pens yesterday, which I was really excited about. But I did outline around her tail, and I think I went up here, yeah, I did, up here in her crown, and started working on this crown area. So I'm going to continue today doing some more of the decorative work and embellishment and transforming her into my own piece of artwork. I did go in and paint her nails red, made her lips red, and did a lot of black outlining in the face. As I looked at this, I realized I didn't have my numbers that I usually put in my collages, which is 23/5. It has to do with numerology and all that thing, but I like, it's kind of a signature for me. I either have 23 or 5 or both numbers. And also, when I look down here at the bottom, I didn't really like that big open area in the ticket. So I found this image, this little girl's face, and it looks like she's looking up at the mermaid. So she's, I think, perfect for that area of the piece. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those two or a couple of pieces down. And I did make a mistake earlier, and I'm going to put it in when I edit the video, that Medusa is on the flag of Sicily, not Italy. And you don't want to make that mistake. So she does appear on the flag of Sicily. And as I've been working on this piece, I've come up with an idea that's far from original, but I was watching a show on Netflix, and it's called Crafts in America, and I was watching the segment on visionaries, and there were lots of different crafts people, and you know, I don't make a distinction personally between making art and crafting. I know a lot of people do. I know a lot of people would disagree with me, but that's okay. I do both. I make fine art. I do crafting. You know, having been a teacher and done a lot of different things in my art career, I have a varied background. And I think it's just as creative if you're making books or doing fine art, or baking an apple pie. You know, it's all part of being creative. It's all part of life. And I like the concept, and many cultures have the concept that, you know, art is life. And if you live your life artistically, in an artistic way, there is no definition. It is no difference between making an apple pie and creating a piece of art. It's all the same. So there was a segment on the show about artists' books. And I was thinking about my previous journal, which I had collages on both pages opposite one another. And I intentionally left this page blank in this journal, having, you know, wanting to do one spread here. I didn't do it here because I ended up doing a double spread, but one spread here and then writing on this page. And I decided, you know, I really wanted to remember a lot of my research and how this image is reflected in my life. And there was an artist's book in this show, and it was so beautiful how the type on one side just flowed from page to page. So I'm going to work this entire double spread as if it is one piece, although the majority of the images will be on this page, and this page will mostly be in organic forms, not written straight across or anything. My reflections on this piece and what it means to me, and how the research that I did as I was working on this piece is reflected in my life. So that will probably, I don't know that I'll film that. I'll show you the end result. But anyway, let's get back to this piece. Okay, we have the face in there. I really like the way she looks. I think I'm going to make the pink in her cheeks a little bit more contrasty and colorful, and maybe a little bit in her upper lip and her chin a little bit, so she'll just show up a little bit better and blend in with the rest of the images. I'm happy this is in there now. So I need to go in and continue doing my embellishing on this piece. I made what I called a pearl up here, and my jelly pen has decided not to work. I think my gremlins are moving around here. But I made this image that to me it looks like a pearl in her headdress. Well, I'm having a lot of luck here. Let's try this one. Okay. And I started putting dots in the tentacles in the background, in the ones that came from the children's book, because I don't want to, since I'm probably going to use this on a collage sheet, I need to change these images enough to make them my own image. So I'm going to go in and work with these dots, and then I'll probably go in and darken them. I'm going to try using some distress inks because I think the white is just standing out a little bit too much. So after I go in and do all this detail work, I'll go in and darken it up a little bit. So I'm probably going to fast forward this part because watching dots is me making dots is probably not the most interesting thing to be watching. So I'll probably just speed through this, but I'd really like to finish the embellishments on this piece today, and so I can move on to my next project. Okay, well, as you can see, I'm a little bit farther ahead than I intended to be. I think it's time to get a video camera exclusively for my videos, because I think what's happening is the camera on my phone gets too full and I have too much in the trash and it stops. So I'm sorry that you kind of missed a lot of the detail work that I did, but I did go in with the Ranger Distress ink that I use in my bookmaking and journal making, and I darkened the tentacles that I put the white dots on, and I like the way they turned out. I think they're a lot different from the way they appeared in the book, in the children's book. So I did that, and I also went in with my black marker and went around my image like I did in the previous video of the first mermaid. And I'm really sorry you didn't get to see all this. I'll try to demonstrate it on this page, but I went around, I hold the pen like this. I don't have a lot of control over it, and I just go around the image very freely and draw a line. And I also go around the images on the border. I like the energy this adds to the piece. And then I do a second line. And I can't, holding the pen like this, I can't always determine exactly where it's going to go. Well, I can never determine exactly where it's going to go holding the pen like this, especially when I laugh. Okay, so, and this kind of gives a definition to the pieces and helps them, you know, stand out. It defines the image from the border. And then I went in with a contrasting color to the background. I went in with the orange Posca pen, and I colored in these spaces that the two lines created. And I haven't done this before. I actually went in and I put a few dots that would lead from one colored area, not solid, but just a couple, to the next. And I really like the way that looks. So I'm probably going to continue doing that. But I did that all the way around the figure, and you can see these little dots in between the solid painted areas. But I really like the way that turned out. I did some more black outlining in her crown, and also I ended up going in with a Stabilo crayon. These can be water activated, but I was having trouble with this, with the shiny magazine image on these arms. So I went in with the Stabilo and I colored the arms, and then went in with a little bit of water, not a lot, and activated the crayon, and then used my finger to kind of smooth out the areas. And I like the way it turned out. It turned out great. And then I went in with my black pen like I did in the face and outlined the arms and the fingernails. I put an outline around her face. And that's about all the outlining that I did. So this is a new material. Sometimes I work a lot with these on my collages, but sometimes not. So the last piece that I added, I actually cut the image out of my my collage sheet that I made for the top of the last mermaid. I had to cut it down a little bit, and I made a top for her and then did a black outline around that. So I think the only other thing that I added were some outlines around the water splashes, and I went in here with my black pen, and I thought, you know, this image could have appeared in the water splashes, and I kind of liked that thought. So I just started making some droplets and some dots and spirals kind of to make that image appear. And I really like that idea. And I'm going to go in with my blue Posca pen and color in the drops. So this kind of becomes an integral part of the story now. It was before, but now it has even more meaning, I think, with these suggestions of her coming out of the water. And I might even continue it up into these numbers a little bit. So there's another little droplet. Okay, and I think that I am going to call her completed. I'm pleased with the way she's turned out. I love the story, and I hope you enjoyed watching her evolve on the page, even though I managed to skip my camera managed to skip some of the detail work. But I'll be doing more videos, and hopefully the next time I will have a new camera that I don't have to worry about all the other apps and things I have on my phone causing me to lose memory. So I hope that you enjoyed this collage with me, and I look forward to seeing you all in my next video. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening, and many blessings. Bye for now.